Hi guys, today I'll present 5 new discoveries about the Paleolithic era that are rewriting the human story. These recent insights revolutionize how we think about the cognitive timeline of our genus and overturn previous beliefs on what earlier human societies were like. Per the latest archaeological findings, early Paleolithic humans, including our ancestors, had a much longer development history, were far more intelligent than presumed, and surprisingly, might have had a lifestyle not so different from people of 10,000 years ago. Furthermore, there is a certain crucial parallel across these discoveries that have not been mentioned much, which I'll discuss in this video. I'll also talk about what old conceptions used to describe early human society that are being dispelled and challenged by the new findings. Let's start with the 5 latest monumental discoveries and why they are paradigm changing. The first one is the world's oldest stone tools unearthed from the shores of Lake Turkana in Kenya. Hundreds of stone tools have been found on site dating back to 3.3 million years ago. They were significantly earlier than anything that had been found previously, 700,000 years older than any tools found before, even predating the earliest known humans in the Homo genus. Homo fossils date to only 2.4 to 2.3 million years ago. Therefore, these 3.3 million-year-old tools suggest that more ancient hominin species, like the Paranthropus genus, may have been more sophisticated than was thought. In 2023, along the shores of Lake Victoria in Kenya, 2.9 to 2.6 million-year-old tools were found, which provides strong evidence linking Paranthropus to the earliest known tool-making and the implied complex behaviors like long-distance raw material sourcing. Such discoveries oppose the long-held assumption that only the Homo genus made stone tools, expanding our views of early Homo and Paranthropus, indicating a wider diversity of abilities and potentially different revolutionary paths than previously understood. The second finding is the earliest bone tools discovered in Olduvai Gorge, Tanzania, by a prehistoric lake. The research was published in March 2025, which states that early humans used animal bones to craft tools 1.5 million years ago, more than 1 million years earlier than archaeologists once proposed. This bone tool finding shows that an earlier human species had advanced cognitive abilities and were able to perform technological transfer. The ability to adapt stone knapping techniques to bone exhibits a major innovation and transfer of skills between different materials. It demonstrates that early hominins could conceptualize and create complex tools from different materials, a testament to their advanced cognitive capacity. The third paramount discovery is the oldest known wooden structures uncovered at Kalambo Falls in Zambia, dated to be 476,000 years old, predating modern humans. Various wood tools were also found on site. The Kalambo structure provides groundbreaking insight into the structural capabilities of early Homo species, likely Homo heidelbergensis. The structure consists of 2 interlocking wooden logs, connected by a notch, securing one perpendicular to the other. According to researchers, the structure probably would have been part of a wooden platform used as a walkway to keep food or firewood dry, or perhaps as a base on which to build a dwelling. The discovery could indicate that hominins who lived at Kalambo Falls may have had a settled lifestyle, which contradicts the prevailing view that the Stone Age hominins were nomadic. This means despite being told repeatedly and taught in textbooks that Paleolithic humans were nomads roamed around hunting and chasing animals for 2.5 million years until 10,000 BC. In reality, humans might have had settlements and lived in wooden dwellings for over 400,000 years. Archaeologists such as Larry Barham of the University of Liverpool, the leader of the expedition that uncovered the structure, believes that wooden tools were potentially even more common than stone tools in the Stone Age. The conjecture that humans in early and middle Pleistocene had a nomadic lifestyle originated from available archaeological findings that are inevitably skewed, since they depend on the preservation of artifacts that survived over eons of time. Stone tools often dominate the narrative of human prehistory, largely because stone survives where wood and other plant-based materials do not. Wood breaks down at a rapid rate, and it requires exceptional conditions for preservation. Consequently, we have very limited information about when and how hominins used wood and other raw plant materials. However, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Just because wooden artifacts are extremely rare, it does not mean that wood was not a primary tool material. Making simple wood tools is generally easier because wood is readily available. It's softer and easy to work with, only need to be cut and sharpened, whereas making stone tools requires specific techniques like flint knapping to chip off flakes from a suitable rock. A sharpened stick as a spear is easier to make than a stone tool. Speaking of wooden spears, that leads to the fourth discovery I want to talk about: early wood tools. The Stone Age is so named due to the stone tools unearthed at ancient sites, which resulted in the belief that during this vast period of human history, stone was the main material for making tools and implements. But new findings of 2024 and 2025 from Germany and China show that 200 to 300,000 years ago, wood probably played a greater role than expected. Over 700 wooden objects found in the muddy banks of a prehistoric lake of Schöningen, Germany, have unveiled how archaic humans used advanced woodworking techniques. Scientists documented that the ancient toolmakers worked spruce and pine with care and consistency, turning raw branches into up to 2.5 meters, 8 feet long aerodynamic throwing sticks and balanced spears. Their balance and shaft design suggest they were thrown with deadly accuracy, tools not just for close-range jabs, but for ambush hunting, likely used to take down large prey such as horses, deer, and other megafauna along the lakeshore. Besides wood weaponry, wooden domestic tools were utilized too. This was not primitive bashing, it was purposeful, skilled engineering. These early humans exhibited cognitive abilities that align closely with modern intelligence. Wood was chosen with intent, split with precision, and often modified over time as tools broke or dulled. Some broken points have been reshaped into new forms, demonstrating a recycling mindset and a deep understanding of material properties. Such human behaviors reveal a nuanced understanding of their environment and a cultural tradition of teaching and learning these techniques. By a lake at Gantanjing, China, archaeologists discovered the oldest wooden tools ever found in East Asia. The 35 tools, dating from 361,000 to 250,000 years ago, are buried with stone tools, antler billets, and cut-marked bones. Unlike the hunting tools found in Germany, the Chinese wooden artifacts were primarily digging sticks and other implements for processing plants. The discovery, along with evidence of plant remains like pine nuts, hazelnuts, and kiwis, suggests a plant-based diet. The sophistication of many of the wooden implements offsets the seemingly primitive aspects of stone tool assemblages in East Asia early Paleolithic. This discovery confirms that in the Middle Pleistocene East Asia, hominins used a mixture of tools made of wood, stone, and bone. These wood tool findings signal the overlooked centrality of wood in human evolution and technological history. The oldest Homo sapiens remains in Africa date to approximately 300,000 years ago. It's generally believed that modern humans have not expanded to Europe and East Asia during that era. Therefore, the 200 to 300,000-year-old wood artifacts in Germany and China might not be the work of Homo sapiens. The discoveries at Schöningen challenge the idea that Homo sapiens were the only ones capable of sophisticated tool use. Maybe our revolutionary cousins, Homo heidelbergensis or early Neanderthals, were already proficient with intricate craftsmanship, long-term planning, and resource recycling. It seems that intelligence was not a sudden leap exclusive to Homo sapiens, but rather a gradual accumulation of skills and knowledge spread across multiple hominin species around the globe. On another note, it's possible that these wooden tools were still made by Homo sapiens, just we have not found the older fossils to prove that modern humans existed in these areas 300,000 years ago. Or have we? Here comes the fifth new study published last month in September 2025, pointing to the potential that Homo sapiens might have been, shockingly, 1 million years old. A skull extracted from the Hanjiang River terrace in China suggests that our species, Homo sapiens, began to emerge at least 500,000 years earlier than we thought. It also shows that we coexisted with other sister species, including Neanderthals, for much longer than we've come to believe. The skull was excavated along with 2 others, but they were damaged and crushed, which is one of the reasons that Yunshan II had been first miscategorized as Homo erectus. After restoring the skull using computer modeling techniques and 3D printing, it's now reclassified to be an early version of Homo longi, a sister species at similar levels of development to Neanderthals and Homo sapiens. Genetic evidence suggests he existed alongside them, so if Yunshan II walked the earth 1 million years ago, say the scientists, early versions of Neanderthals and our own species probably did too. According to Professor Chris Stringer of the Natural History Museum, a co-lead on the research, this startling analysis, if correct, would dramatically shift the timeline of the evolution of large-brained humans back by at least 500,000 years. Professor Stringer stated that there are likely to be million-year-old fossils of Homo sapiens somewhere on our planet. We simply have not found them yet. Homo sapiens being 1 million years old. That's big news, isn't it? You may already notice there is an interesting shared feature, a parallel among all the above archaeological sites. The 3.3 million-year-old stone tools were from Lake Turkana. The 2.9 to 2.6 million-year-old stone tools were by Lake Victoria. The 1.5 million-year-old bone tools were uncovered by Olduvai Gorge, a Pleistocene lake bed. The Kalembo structure is excavated at Kalembo River. The wooden spears of Shawnigan near a prehistoric lake. The Gantongqing wood digging tools came from a lakeshore, and the 1 million-year-old skull was extracted from a river terrace. All these Paleolithic sites used to be right by a freshwater body, a lake or a river, out in the open and not in caves. Fresh water is essential for human survival since the dawn of Homo genus. Even today, with modern utility lines to deliver water, over 50% of the world's population lives closer to 3 kilometers or less than 1.9 miles to a surface freshwater body, whilst 90% lives within 10 kilometers or 6.2 miles. It's natural for early humans to choose their residential camps or homes in places with a consistent freshwater resource. Prehistoric people are often referred to as cavemen who lived in caves and rock shelters. But archaeological findings display that early humans stayed extensively near lakes and rivers. The variety of hunting, harvesting, and wood processing tools at a single location, such as Schillingen, Germany, indicate that a site was occupied frequently or for an extended period of time. Further, the Kalembo structure showcased that hominins from almost 500,000 years ago might have lived in above-ground wooden houses. For decades, the mainstream narrative is that permanent dwellings came about only around 10,000 BC, with the invention of agriculture and animal husbandry. Before that, Paleolithic people were forced to move around all the time to follow their food and lived under the shelter of caves and teepees. But early humans and other extinct hominoid species were never really cavemen. They did not set up permanent homes in caves, and merely use caves as temporary shelters during their seasonal wanderings. Caves are not always available around fresh water. They could be hard to get to, cold, dark, with poor air circulation and no exit egress. They can also be frequented by dangerous animals, which makes them unsuitable as habitations. The misconception of prehistoric people being cavemen relates to the rudimentary archaeological work done in the 19th century. human remains and artifacts in remote, rarely occupied caves get preserved much better than in the open landscape, which lead to this biased idea. Later studies have proven that archaic humans mostly resided in the open-air settings near water. Desirable locations, such as plains close to freshwater bodies, travel and trade routes, would have been reoccupied and rebuilt countless times by various human groups for hundreds of thousands of years. Thus, the traces of early human activities might be destroyed. Our modern cities in the Old World might even have rooted from popular and populated Paleolithic sites. As for prehistoric humans not being nomadic but having wooden dwellings, I'm not really surprised, since I've always found a claim that hunter-gatherers, especially those who lived in cooler regions, were solely nomads with no long-term settlements impractical. The human groups consist of not only strong and mobile hunters, but also young children, pregnant women, and the elderly. Besides the hunters, the group needed individuals to gather necessities, start fires, cook, make clothes and shoes, create tools, set up shelters, and care for the injured, young, elderly, and sick. Can you imagine a family with older relatives and young kids constantly moving around on foot to chase animals year after year? Every night, they would have to find a safe and protected spot to cook and sleep in the wild. Granted, our ancestors from the Stone Age were way hardier than us. This type of demanding and hectic lifestyle still does not seem sustainable. What if they killed a big game animal or gathered a lot of wild cereals? Where would they process and store the food if they were always on the go? When they moved, did they carry their water, firewood, cooking pots, vessels, stone, and other tools with them? Please don't forget that based on current evidence, these people had neither draft animals nor wheels. Every possession they wanted to keep would need to be carried or hauled. Years of accumulation of tools, containers, and dried foods could be fairly heavy. It would make more sense to first scout and find a resourceful place, then move the entire group and establish secure residences, at least seasonal ones, that are close to fresh water. Areas close to rivers and lakes would be guaranteed to attract animals. If hunter-gatherer tribes found an ideal place with fresh water, good wild grains or legumes, and plentiful game animals and fish year-round, then why would they move away? It would have been pragmatic and conducive for hunter-gatherers to organize labor, resources, and time to build permanent settlements and dwellings for their families and tribes. And recent discoveries discussed earlier are proof of my hunter-gatherer settlement hypothesis. It's long been believed that our modern civilization is unique, which originated at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 BC, when the climate became warmer and farming finally emerged. Only until then, a warmer climate fostered conditions necessary for farming, and permanent dwellings came about with the invention of agriculture and animal husbandry. Farming allowed for food surpluses. Food surplus supported larger populations and the development of concentrated living such as villages and towns. New social classes showed up, including priests, warriors, and artisans. Languages evolved into more complex speech due to increasing economic and social needs, which formed written records. Writing then greatly helped with the preservation and spreading of knowledge and skills. This crucial transition kick-started a rapid technological and economic development, advanced human society from Paleolithic to Neolithic, to the Bronze Age and onward, which eventually reached to our current height. In this concept, warmer climate, farming, and sedimentary lifestyle are the three prerequisites of fast human society and technological advancing. But now, archaeological finds show there might have been similar conditions before. There were approximately 4 previous interglacial warm periods for the last 500,000 years. Any of these warm eras could have ignited farming, particularly for the East Asian tribes, who already had a plant-based diet 300,000 years ago, right? Are we sure we are the only ones invented farming? During the Middle Paleolithic period, almost 500,000 years ago, Archaic humans possibly already had a sedimentary lifestyle and lived indoors in Zambia. Settling down in permanent dwellings would be quite beneficial to human societal development. When people were not burdened by constant moving, hauling, and relocating, they would have more time to study and perfect their tool-making, nurture themselves and teach their young, enhance their living conditions with new crafts and inventions, and communicate and share their knowledge. Could certain large-brained human groups during prior interglacial times develop farming and build their civilization? So, what have we learned today? Tool-making might not be exclusive to the Homo genus. Early Stone Age humans were much more sophisticated and intelligent than thought. Prehistoric hominins were not cavemen but lived by lakeshores and riverbanks. The Stone Age is also the Wood Age, as wooden tools were likely utilized before the birth of stone tools. Middle Paleolithic people were probably not nomadic, but instead settled in wooden dwellings. New discoveries spawn new questions. If the human history is that much longer, early humans were that much smarter and capable, and had sedimentary living for almost 500,000 years, then why these early humans, Homo sapiens included, stayed in the Paleolithic age for hundreds of thousands of years without much progress? Why only in the last 12,000 years or so, humans began farming and moved forward technologically at a dramatic pace? Could there have been earlier farming and technical civilizations during the last few interglacial periods? What do you think? If you have any insights, please leave me a comment. If you like my video, please subscribe to my channel and share with others. You can also support me on Patreon, which is a monthly charge, or on Buy Me a Coffee. I appreciate your support. This is Curious Being. I'm Tina. Thanks for watching and see you next time.